30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's at the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And now it's the Undefined Blitz with Chad and JC.
And welcome everybody once again to the Undefined Blitz right here on undefinedradio.com. Appreciate you guys and gals tuning in as we bring you all the latest happenings around the football world. It's what we do. We do it every Monday. We do it right here on Undefined Radio, whether watching on YouTube, Facebook, wherever it is you're listening from. We appreciate you guys and gals tuning in. As you can see, got my clean new Texas Rangers World Series t-shirt thanks to my son. Look, and y'all going to say, how long are we going to continue to celebrate the Rangers World Series victory? You might as well stop asking, because that question is forever. Yeah, it was well earned.
It was 52 years of waiting for that one. So I guess we'll quit talking about it in another 52 years.
Maybe. But we are going to dive right into football because there's a lot happening. We are halfway through the season in the NFL season. We're getting near the end of the collegiate season. A couple of weeks left before we get into the bowls and all that good stuff that's happening around the college football world. So there's a lot going on. And we'll start off with college football because this whole thing that's happening with Jim Harbaugh right now and Michigan Wolverines is getting ugly.
Absolutely.
And it's getting ugly quick. It's gotten to the point now that, dude, I think it's more of a reactionary thing than anything else. You know what? Team gets butthurt over something that happens, and it's just one of those things to me that's kind of dumb. Because I'm sorry, this kind of thing has been going on forever.
Yeah, but we should all know by now. If you don't want the NCAA to overreact to something, don't give them anything to overreact to.
That's right, because they're going to do it. Because that's just what the NCAA does.
And look, someone else will get caught for this very same offense later down the road, and then their punishment won't be as severe.
No.
And then the next guy will get caught, and then it'll be more severe than either of the first two. Because the NCAA, if they do anything, it's punished not only indiscriminately, but inconsistently.
And they've always been that way. To me, it's such a non sequitur. It's so stupid, right? It's dumb. If you're stupid enough to show your signs, then you deserve to get your signs stolen. If you're going to continue to set that, NFL does it all the time.
And in NCAA football in particular, they use literal signs.
Yes, they do.
Their play calls are on a big poster board that they hold up, and it's 4 distinct images on that poster. Maybe one of them's a dummy call.
Yeah.
And then you still have to figure out what that call means.
Exactly. Now, if you're sending people in undercover into their schools to steal plays, that's one thing.
Right.
But if you're setting it up for all the world to see, there's nothing wrong with that.
You know, we opened the show talking about baseball. This is a thing that's happened in baseball forever.
Oh, yeah. You're trying to figure out, all right, well, if you're going to show something, I'm not going to sit there and pretend like you're not showing me a thing.
Right.
I'm not going to try to decipher that thing. Hey, you don't want it, and then say you want to stop it. Maybe put those microphones in your quarterback's heads like the NFL does.
Absolutely. It's a real easy thing. You know, the NFL, they have the play call sheets. You'll see every coach in the NFL covers their mouth.
That's right.
When they're doing the play call.
You know, it's funny. Greg Olson and Kevin Burkhardt were talking about this yesterday, and they had the conversation with Dak, actually, about, because Dak does all these new calls and stuff up at the line. And he said, and Greg Olson had made mention, it's so fun watching the Cowboys game because you could really hear what's going on out there. But, Dak was saying, yeah, I watched the TV broadcast, and you have to realize that when you're doing that, then you have to go and change everything up because everybody can hear it.
Absolutely.
Because once you start calling it, they're going to know, oh, false is left, true is right. So now I have to switch it up, call it something else. That's how they went with the here we go thing. And so it makes a difference. There's nothing wrong with that. That's sportsmanship. If you're going to call stuff out, people are going to naturally decipher it, try to decipher it.
like when it blew up with Peyton Manning, the whole Omaha call.
Yep.
And everyone would ask me, like, what does Omaha mean? What does it mean? Like, it depends on the game.
That's it. What does it mean this game?
I'll use the Omaha call every single game. But in this game, it might mean, the line blocks down to the right. And the next game, when I make that Omaha call, it might be, a jet sweep.
That's right. Change it up.
So I'll make the same call, but you never know what it's going to be.
So I think this whole Jim Harbaugh thing is stupid. I think it's idiotic. I think there are butthurt coaches out there that are getting their ass whooped on a Saturday that are just tired of getting whooped and the program sucks or just not quite up to snuff, and they need somebody else to blame.
Absolutely.
Besides themselves. And this is what happens, especially when you're going against a top-tier program right now.
It's very overreactionary. And then, of course, this weekend they went against another top 10 program in Penn State.
Yep.
Didn't have Jim Harbaugh.
Nope.
And still won the game.
Cody, how about them Cowboys? Well, they crushed a really inferior team yesterday. There's no question about that.
Inferior.
But
a team of backups, actually.
Yeah, but but they played real well against a Philly team. They actually outplayed in that game and should have won it, but they didn't. But yeah, I think they're getting better. I think they're getting more comfortable with this offensive scheme is what it looks like.
Well, I think not only are they getting more comfortable with the scheme, but any kind of shackles that was put on the offense, like, hey, like do this. It's like, hey, if that's there, do that. But also, that's why we have all this other stuff.
That's right,
too.
So we can do other things.
Let's use all of it.
And Dak using his legs and being able to get the freedom just to move, and you see more and more of that, and you see the effectiveness it has on the offense. So, which is great. And we'll get to that game here in a little bit.
And if the Cowboys want to catch the Eagles in the NFC East, the next 3 weeks are the perfect time for them to do it. The Cowboys have a favorable schedule the next 3 weeks.
The Eagles do not.
Eagles do not.
Eagles have a rough stretch coming up.
The Eagles are about to have a rough next 5 games.
That's right.
If not rough, but at least a challenge.
Yeah, it won't be just cakewalks for them.
In the next 3 games, the Eagles have the Chiefs and the 49ers.
Yeah. yes, they do.
So,
yes, they do.
So, but by that same token, if the Eagles are going to prove that they are the best team in the NFC East, these next 3 to 5 games are really going to prove that for the Eagles.
Isn't it awesome, Cody? It is awesome. It's an awesome shirt. That's great. That's what we were talking about at the start of the show. We're not going to stop celebrating this. It's awesome. And to have a couple of the Rangers guys, you had Garcia and Leclerc at the Cowboys game yesterday. Was great. Huge ovation they got when they put them up on the
roof blew off.
Oh my God, it was awesome. It was awesome. All right, we're gonna run through a few of these games real quick and talk about them. I mean, some we won't. Louisville beat Virginia 31-24 Thursday night to stay 9-1. Georgia destroyed Ole Miss 52-17. Ole Miss doesn't know football when it comes to Georgia. It was a massacre.
Not many people do,
and that's really true. I mean, Georgia's just that good. It's one of the top teams in the country. Texas got by TCU, was really beating the brakes off them until the second half when Texas decided we don't want to play offense anymore.
And then Jonathan TCU Brooks tore his ACL.
Yeah, which was tragic.
It was rough.
Yeah.
But going back to that Ole Miss game, did you see the catch by Dayton Wade?
No.
He's doing these routinely now. He had one several, I guess in the LSU game maybe, or maybe the game after LSU, where he does the OBJ type catch where he just jumps up and back because the ball is crazy overthrown and he reaches back and snags one. He did that against Georgia the other night where he jumped up, all his momentum going back on his head, and he reaches out and manages to snag the ball.
Made an insane catch.
Made an insane catch in a game where they are getting dominated, and he's still out there playing that hard.
Yep.
That's the kind of stuff that you like to see.
Well, it makes you at least somewhat excited about where the program is and where it's going. I mean, and on top of that, they've only lost, two games. I mean, so
they lost to Alabama and Georgia, the 2 best teams in the SEC.
Yeah, Cody said, I sure hope my Bulldogs find a good coach.
I hope they don't. I hope they're terrible forever.
They certainly got rid of their coach 11 games into his tenure there. It was like, I think we're good.
I remember a huge section of Bulldogs fans talking about how great that hire was and how awesome it was going to be for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And he didn't make a full season.
But here's the thing. I mean, he's into season 1, and did they overachieve the year before?
No, because
Is this a product that's what I'm saying though? Is it just Mike Leach's leadership, and now they're having to learn a whole new thing, and it's a new regime, and now everything's different? I mean, what is the deal there? Because the guy certainly was not a bad coach, but it was not good at Mississippi State. Now we were talking about these teams around here are tough. It's tough. We don't get the good recruiting. I mean, I think that's starting to pick up a little bit. And we see that more and more with the NIL. We talk about that a lot.
And you're in the toughest conference in football.
Oh, my God, yeah. Everybody's going to be difficult.
Yeah. And
it's just difficult.
And the conference is only going to get stronger next year.
Yeah, it's not going to get easier.
If you're one of those teams that's perpetually in the bottom of the conference, that slog to the top is going to get much, much more difficult.
It is. So it's just going to be one of those things where they're going to have to find a coach that is willing to stick around. I mean, Leach, that was a tragedy. That was terrible. I mean, everybody liked Mike Leach. I mean, he was just fun. That was cool. We've talked about that many times.
Mike Leach has been beloved at every single stop he's ever made.
That's right. And we weren't, of course, Bulldog fans, but Mike Leach was great. He was always fun.
I wasn't a Texas Tech fan.
Yeah.
And he was great there.
He was
great at Washington State.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about just results on the field, just like who Mike Leach was
as a person,
as a human being. I remember when Mike Leach got hired at Mississippi State. I was traveling. I was doing not a long road trip. I guess it'd be a long road trip by European standards, but not by American standards.
Yeah, true.
It was about 3.5 hours. And I was driving through northeast Mississippi where you only got regional sports radio.
Yep.
That's all you could get.
That's right.
So they were interviewing Mike Leach, and in this interview, he did not really want to talk about football. Like, he mentioned it, that he was excited to take over the job and get to work, but he really wanted to talk about world history and pirates.
That's right.
What he wanted to talk about, man, and it was so wildly entertaining.
Which is cool. That sort of thing is cool. I love that. Jason said Red Kingdom. The whole coaching staff got dismantled coming into the season, had players for one scheme and totally changed it up this season. Yeah, I mean, and that happens again. When you got a new coaching change, that dude has a different philosophy, right? How
Absolutely.
He sees things, and that usually happens. Mizzou is making a statement this year. They are. I mean, that program has really turned it around, and nobody's really talking about it.
And, I mean, they wiped the floor with Tennessee this weekend.
Yo, man, they made Tennessee look foolish.
I mean, 36-7, number 13 versus number 14. Huge win for Missouri as they have really entrenched themselves as the second best team in the Eastern Division.
They really have, and that's a surprise. Nobody expected that coming into the season. We had Ohio State destroy Michigan State 38-3. We talked about Michigan beating Penn State 24-15 without their head coach on the sidelines.
Great game from Blake Corum.
Yep.
Like, this is the Blake Corum that we saw all last season until he got hurt. But, man, 26 carries, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Cost Penn State, their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, cost Penn State their OC. Blake Corum, after the game, there was a cool picture taken as a really tight shot of his face. So he has the eye black that crosses over the nose. He had that going on. And then right above his eye black, over the bridge of his nose, is just that mark that you get from that pad.
Oh, the pad where it pops down.
Just over the forehead where his helmet had come down. And it had been rubbed so much from how much work he got in that game that you could see the blood. He had a little bandage over it.
Yeah.
It's a cool picture.
Yeah.
Real cool picture.
Pretty. Florida State beat Miami 27-20 in a really good game. You have Washington beats Utah 35-28. Utah.
If they could score in the second half.
Exactly. It was the second half messed them up because they're right there. We have Oregon beat USC 36-27. Oregon continues to make a statement.
Yeah. Their
belonging.
Their only bad game this year was against Washington.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's not a pushover.
No, they're not. Alabama destroys Kentucky 49-21 as they are really continuing to figure it out in Alabama. Oregon State beat Stanford 62-17. We talked about Mizzou beating Tennessee 36-7. UCF beats Oklahoma State.
Upset of the week.
A ranked Oklahoma State team 45-3. Screwed up my picks this week, by the way, this game.
I think it screwed up everyone's
I
picks
think
this
it
week.
did too. This is ridiculous.
And hey, shout out to RJ Harvey.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time we've talked about him this year.
Yep.
But man, 24 carries, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Kick and hustle.
And who knows? Is that because Oklahoma State spent all their energy on the Bedlam game? Or are they just sleeping on UCF in this first Big 12 matchup between these two teams?
I guarantee you they were. I think it's a little bit of both. I think they were like, well, we had this big game. We're great. We're good. We're back. Hey, we're doing something. And then UCF, we got this team. And then, no, you didn't.
Well, coming into the season, everyone was saying that of the 4 new teams that joined the Big 12 this year, UCF was the most ready to start really making an impact in the conference.
And they've had a disappointing season.
Yeah,
I would say up until Saturday.
Yeah, they're 5-5. They're 2-5 in Big 12 play. This is only the second win they've got in conference this year.
Just need one win to be bowl eligible.
So what I'm saying here is we know Oklahoma and Texas go to the SEC next season.
Yes.
Does this just absolute beatdown of Oklahoma State, does that create a new rivalry in the Big 12 between Oklahoma State and UCF?
Well,
because you can only think the Cowboys are going to take this personally, and they're going to want
that's what I was about to say.
Next year.
They're going to mark this game on their calendar next year. They were wanting some payback.
They made a long trip.
This was embarrassing
to Orlando and just got blasted.
They did. They didn't even get off the bus, the plane, whatever. And Texas Tech handed to number 16 Kansas 16-13.
Because Kansas didn't score till the fourth quarter.
That was it. I mean, Texas Tech was fully in control of this game. We had the Sooners beat West Virginia 59-20.
As they should have. Hey, a huge game for Dylan Gabriel. 8 touchdowns. 5 through the air, 3 on the ground. Massive, massive game.
LSU beat Florida 52-35.
Jaden Daniels, also a massive game. 372 yards, 3 touchdowns passing, 12 carries, 234 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns for the quarterback for LSU.
Arizona came back to beat Colorado 34-31 in the game that Colorado was winning.
Colorado just can't get out of their own way.
They cannot.
But, there's only been one game where Colorado got absolutely embarrassed this year. Like, they're 4-6. If they want to be bowl eligible, they have to win their next 2 games. One of them's winnable. The other is going to be a challenge.
That's right.
But the fact is they have been competitive in all but one game this entire season for a team that has not played together.
Yep.
Because it's mostly a rebuilt team.
That's right.
It's a lot of transfer students coming in. A lot of their key players from last season went out. So the fact that Colorado is in the position that they are this late in the year, 10 games in, 2 games left, and they still have that possibility of becoming bowl eligible.
We have Iowa beat Rutgers 22-0.
I told you that the over-under for this game was 29.5.
Take the under.
Take the under. And the under hit.
There it is.
All because Rutgers did not score at all.
That's right. 23 Tulane beat Tulsa 24-22. And North Carolina beats Duke 47-45.
What a game.
And finally, you got Kansas State beating Baylor 59-25. We had a lot of 50 burgers thrown up this weekend.
But that North Carolina Duke game, man, for Duke to fail the 2-point conversion attempt in overtime, like that's a tough way to lose.
It really is. We're gonna not what I wanted to do there. I'm gonna get back to that. That was wrong. We're gonna pull up the coaches poll because the new CFP will be out tomorrow night. But we're gonna tell you what we're thinking is happening here. We have number 1 Georgia, number 2 Michigan, number 3 Ohio State, number 4 Florida State. You got Washington at 5, Oregon at 6, Texas at 7, Alabama at 8. There's no movement in the top 8 spots. Louisville bumps up 2-9. Oregon State up 2-10. Missouri up 5 to number 11. Penn State drops down to 3. Ole Miss drops down 3 to 12. Ole Miss drops down 3 to 13. Oklahoma bumps up 3 to 14. LSU is now at 15. Utah drops to 16. Tulane all the way up to number 17. James Madison, number 18. Arizona at 19. Notre Dame at 20. Tennessee dropped 7 spots to 21. North Carolina's up 2 to 22. Kansas State wasn't ranked. They come into the polls at 23. Oklahoma State dropped 9 spots. biggest mover of the weekend, all the way down to 24, and Liberty is sitting there still at number 25, undefeated Liberty. So you get undefeated Liberty 10-0, undefeated James Madison down here at 10-0. People think, well, they haven't been beaten, they should be hard. No, they should not.
Well, I know several years ago when Hugh Freeze was the head coach at Liberty, when they were 8-0, 9-0, like they were significantly higher in the rankings than what this Liberty team is.
Yeah, no doubt.
Do you think that's just because they don't have a high-profile head coach?
Yes, I do. I think it matters.
I'm going to look at who Liberty's beaten and see. Well, they haven't beaten anybody. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, there's no. That's what I'm saying. Look at who they're playing. There's not winning any significant games. They're beating everybody they should beat, but like, there's no way you're telling me Liberty goes up against any of the top 16 teams that they beat those guys. Any of those guys.
Yeah, Liberty hasn't played a ranked team all year.
Yeah, that has not happened.
And their conference championship game is already set with 2 weeks of the regular season left to go.
So there you go.
And it'll be a rematch against New Mexico State from week 2.
So they already know what's coming up.
Yep.
What's looming around the bend.
They've got UMass this weekend. They've got UTEP the following weekend, and then the weekend after that, conference championship game against New Mexico State. So, strong possibility that Liberty ends the season 13-0.
We've got these top 5 spots up here. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Washington. Oregon looking on the outside looking in.
Texas, Alabama, Louisville on the outside looking in.
I mean, they're all right there, and they're all pretty tight. Georgia, easily number 1. Michigan sitting there at number 2. Ohio State got a singular vote this time at number 3. And, of course, Florida State's at 4 right now.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, guys, this is the AP
poll. It's not 25. The CFP.
The CFP rankings will be out tomorrow night.
So that's my question. What do you think we see moving in? Do you think we see any movement in this top 4?
Well, we are in 2 weeks.
There's no question we are in 2 weeks.
Because Ohio State and Michigan still got square off against each other. I don't see a way that we don't have 4 different conference champions in the playoffs. Like Florida State this weekend, they got North Alabama, and then they've got a very beatable Florida team.
Oh, yeah.
And then their conference championship game.
That's right.
Which is still to be determined. But for Michigan and Ohio State, one of those teams is more than likely, barring a meltdown, going to the college football playoff. The way it would melt down is if, let's say for the sake of argument, Ohio State beat Michigan in their regular season matchup.
Mm-hmm.
But then Ohio State turns around and loses the Big Ten championship game.
Mm-hmm.
That opens the door for probably Texas or Louisville. I would say if those teams won conference champions, it's going to be hard for Oregon because Oregon's already lost to Washington. They're both in the same division of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
So let's say how it is now is how it ends. Mm-hmm. Washington 12-0 going into conference championship week. Oregon at 11-1. If Washington goes into that conference championship and loses, I don't think Oregon gets in over them just by virtue of Washington having beaten Oregon.
I don't think so either.
You know, there's going to be a lot of arguments made here in the
I kind of hope it happens just to see what they come up with.
If you really want pandemonium, conference championship week.
Yes.
12-0 Georgia.
Yes.
Versus 11-1 Alabama.
Yes. Alabama wins.
Alabama wins.
Yeah.
Georgia goes from being the number 1 team in the country to being out of the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm. I would bet you any amount of money that won't happen. Even if they lose, I don't think it happens.
It'll have to. If we're in a situation where we've got 3 undefeated conference champions from Power 5 conferences, if you got undefeated Michigan, let's say, you've got undefeated Florida State, and you've got undefeated Washington, those 3 teams are getting in over 1-loss non-conference champion Georgia.
I don't know that they'll do it. I mean, the CFP doesn't have to do that.
They don't have to, but I think
that's what I'm saying. I would be interested to see that.
I think
I don't think they'll do it.
I think they should.
Oh yeah, I'm with you.
And I think they should because it is going to prove the point that 4 teams in the playoff is not necessarily enough.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Some years it's clear cut.
Yeah.
Who the best 2 teams in the country
That's
are.
right.
This is not one of those years.
No, it's not.
Like the top 9 teams in the country. Let me take that back. Top 8 teams in the country.
Yeah.
Right now, according to this poll, and I don't have any arguments with this poll the way it's laid out.
I don't either.
Because Alabama lost to Texas, they're 1 rank behind Texas.
Yeah.
Oregon lost to Washington, they're 1 rank behind Washington.
That's right.
Even though Texas actually had a much tougher schedule, better quality wins. Actually, Texas, Alabama, and Arizona are the only teams that have beaten at least 3 ranked opponents this year.
That's right.
Only once. So Texas, to me, technically should be ahead of Oregon, but the point is Oregon should still be there.
Yeah.
You could take those top 8 teams and make a playoff out of that, and no one would have a problem with it.
No, because you're like, yeah, these are the studs.
These are the teams.
These are the guys.
So next year when it expands out to 12 teams, regardless of how they do the format, whether it's 6 plus 6 or if it's 5 plus 7, I think we should have it because, like I said, if you've got 3 undefeated conference champions, whatever team comes out of the Big Ten between Michigan and Ohio State, Florida State and Washington, and then Alabama is the SEC champion at 12-1, and Georgia is not the SEC champion at 12-1 by virtue of Alabama beating Georgia, then Georgia is going to miss out.
That's what you would think, but I have a feeling.
Because it's not like Washington has played an easy schedule. They played a rough schedule
Yes, they did.
all year. Florida State had maybe not the hardest schedule of all time, but they have played some competitive games.
They have.
They've actually only beat 2 ranked opponents. I'm sorry. They beat LSU in week 1.
That's a big time.
When LSU was number 5 in the country. They beat them 45-24. Beat the brakes off them.
Yeah, handily.
And then they beat Duke when Duke was number 16. Beat them 38-20.
Yep, that's looking pretty miserable as a.
But they've also gotten wins over marquee programs like Clemson and Miami this season. And then they'll probably pick up another marquee win over Florida. So it's going to be really, really difficult for Georgia to make the playoff if they don't win the SEC championship because they control their destiny.
I agree with you 100%. And I think it's a great theory. And if you're doing it practically, I think that's the way to do it. But I don't trust the CFP board to make that decision.
It's also college football. And any given Saturday,
anybody can
win.
Happen. Exactly. So because I can see Alabama very well going in there and beating Georgia. They could do it.
Yeah. Washington, by the way, has to play Oregon State this weekend. Number 12, Oregon State.
See, and that's not going to be a cakewalk for Washington.
Not at all. That's going to be a tough game.
So you see in that, and again, we got Michigan and Ohio State still have to play each other. So there's about to be some shakeups in the next couple of weeks. We know that going into it. We know this is unfolding here.
Ohio State has Minnesota this week, which they should run away with that game. And then they have Michigan at Michigan, by the way. That's important to note.
Yep. But I would be. Here's the thing: if Michigan and Alabama take it down to the wire and say Alabama scrapes by last second field goal, I don't know that the CFP will keep Georgia out of it. I don't know that they look at this and go, boom. What
Power 5 conference champion gets left out? If it was a group of 5 champion, I would kind of get it.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
If you're saying, an undefeated American conference team and a 1-loss non-conference champion Georgia, then yeah, Georgia's probably getting in.
Oh yeah.
But we don't have any group of 5 teams even in the top 8.
No,
not even in the top 9.
No, this becomes a more political thing.
We don't have a group of 5 team until you get to Tulane.
That's right.
And they're 17.
No, this becomes a more political thing than that. It's not just cut and dry like you and I look at it as sports, and this is what should happen. That's not how these guys are going to look at
Football's supposed to be a meritocracy.
It's supposed to be, but that ain't how the NCAA has ever been ruled, ever. We see that all the time.
See who Oregon's got the rest of the way. So they've got Arizona State, which they should walk all over them. And then Oregon's got Oregon State the last week. So Oregon State's last 2 games are Washington and Oregon.
See, like, I sit here and look at these
The Beavers
polls,
could play spoiler, man, and that is fantastic.
and I would love to see it. I mean, I'm all for the chaos, and I'm hoping this is kind of what happens
because Oregon State's 8-2 right now. If they beat Washington and then turn around and beat Oregon, and they end the season at 10-2, then they'll be ranked above Oregon.
Yes, they'll definitely be ranked.
But they
Oregon.
won't necessarily have ruined Washington's season.
No,
because Washington will still be playing whatever team comes out of the South, the Pac-12 South,
and
it will probably beat them.
That's right
for the conference title. So Washington could theoretically still take the loss to Oregon State and be okay.
Yep, they very well could. We're gonna see. I'm excited to see what happens,
especially because the fact that Michigan and Ohio State have to play each other.
Exactly. Now, we're going to go through these games this week. There's a lot of cake games in here. And we'll start out. UL Monroe takes on number 9, Ole Miss. Line is Ole Miss by 36.5. Ole Miss is 13, not 9. But
36.5.
Yeah.
Woo. Yeah, that's brutal. I don't think Ole Miss will win by 36.5, but they should win. Absolutely.
Texas takes on Iowa State. Line is Texas by 8.5.
Texas should definitely win. Hopefully, C.J. Baxter can get on track. He was the starting running back when the season began before Jonathan Brooks took over that job.
Yep.
But not having J.B. back there, that's a tough blow to that Texas offense.
It is. You got number 6 Oregon taking on Arizona State. Lines Oregon by 22.5 on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be Oregon.
Number 18 Utah takes on number 21 Arizona. Lines Arizona by 1.5 at home.
Wow. Who would have thought coming into the season that we would be in this situation where Arizona is favored over the Utes?
I would not.
Which I'm pretty sure Utah's like back-to-back Pac-12 champions.
Yep.
The last 2 years. Now, granted, Utah has played this entire season without their starting quarterback. But, man, the Wildcats just go up against tough competition and find ways to win.
All right, we got number 3 Michigan taking on Maryland. Lines Michigan by 19.
Yeah, Michigan should absolutely win, but Maryland's been playing teams tough.
Chattanooga.
By the way, Arizona's only losses this season, they did lose to Mississippi State back in week 2.
Yeah.
But since then, their only losses were to then number 7 Washington and then number 9 USC. They lost to Washington by a touchdown. They lost to Mississippi State by a touchdown, Washington by a touchdown, and USC by 2 points.
Well, they're playing tough.
Yeah, and since then, they beat number 19 Washington State in a landslide. They then beat Oregon State by 3, number 11 Oregon State at the time, and then they beat number 19 UCLA by 17.
Jeez. We got Chattanooga taking on Alabama. There's no line on this game.
As there shouldn't be. It's Alabama by a landslide.
We've got Rutgers taking on number 10 Penn State. Line is Penn State by 20.
Well, Rutgers got blamed by Iowa last week. Penn State's definitely going to bounce back this week. They'll get that win to improve to 9-2.
We've got number 11 Louisville taking on Miami.
Louisville's only a 1-point favorite. Don't be surprised if Miami comes in there and steals, or not goes in there, but Louisville goes down to Miami, but Miami steals the game.
Number 17 Oklahoma takes on BYU. Line is Oklahoma by 24.5.
Yeah, the Storm and Mormons got beat to sleep this past weekend. It was not a particularly close game. Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel coming off a massive game where he accounted for 8 touchdowns. Oklahoma should roll in that one.
Yeah, number 23 Tulane taking on Florida Atlantic. Line is Tulane by 9.5.
Yeah, let's get Tulane to 10-1. I'm with it.
Then you've got New Haven taking on number 2 Charleston. West Virginia. What is it showing me this for?
This is D2 playoff football, baby.
D2 playoff. It is, right?
Yeah.
All right, you got number 2 Charleston, New Haven. There's no line on this game.
I don't know anything about these teams, so I don't even want to talk about it.
So you got a lot of this, dude. I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is going on? Why is this on here?
Yeah, because it matters.
It's top 25. I mean, it is playoff football. That's all on. There's a lot of that. They sandwiched it right in between the rest of these games. All right, we got number 2 Georgia, number 13 Tennessee. Well, Tennessee's not 13 anymore, and Georgia's now number 1. So you got Lions Georgia by 10.5.
I mean, it should absolutely be Georgia, but God, who knows?
Yeah.
What if Georgia falls apart down the stretch?
Ain't happening. They look so damn good this weekend.
I don't think it will happen.
It was a machine.
But just what if? I'm just
The
playing
scary
what if
part for
situation.
everybody else right now is Georgia is playing their best football. That's the scary part.
Absolutely.
You got Wake Forest and Notre Dame. Lions Notre Dame by 24.5 at home.
Yes, Sam Hartman playing against his former squad, Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Notre Dame should take that one, though.
Yeah, Illinois is taking on number 22, Iowa. Lions Iowa by 3 at home.
Iowa wins by 3. The over-under is 30.5. Oh, I'm going to say – man, I'm going to say bet the over.
Hey, there you go.
Not by much. This could absolutely be an 18-15 game.
Yeah.
Type deal, or a 17-15 game.
You got number 24 North Carolina taking on Clemson. The line is Clemson by 6.5 at home.
No, give me the Tar Heels.
You got Minnesota taking on number 1 Ohio State.
I can't believe Clemson's favored in that game.
By
a whole touchdown at that.
Lions Ohio State by 27.5 over Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm taking the Buckeyes for sure.
Oklahoma State taking on Houston. The Lions Oklahoma State by 7 on the road.
Well, the Cougars would love to spoil the season for Oklahoma State, but that just happened for them. So
that's right.
Cowboys should get it back together and get a hard-fought victory over the Cougars.
You got North Alabama taking on number 4 Florida State.
Yeah, my North Alabama is my aunt's alma mater, and it's not going to end up well for them, as the Seminoles will absolutely dog walk the Lions.
Yep. 25 Kansas State, 16 Kansas. Lions Kansas by 8.5 at home.
Big time matchup. I'm taking the Wildcats on the road there.
There you go. You've got number 5 Washington, number 12 Oregon State. Lions Oregon State by 1 at home.
Well,
now on a Monday.
By 1 is a pick 'em.
That's right.
But yeah, give me the Beavers at home. I want to see them wreck shop the last 2 weeks of the season. If they can beat Washington and Oregon, I don't care what they do in their bowl game. I will respect them.
We've got Florida taking on number 14 Missouri. Lions Mizzou by 11.5 at home.
Give me Mizzou, and Florida will fall into 5-6 heading into that matchup against Florida State, where not only is Florida State fighting to get in the CFP, but Florida's just fighting to get to a bowl game at that point.
We've got Georgia State taking on number 19 LSU. The Lions LSU by 31.
Yeah, LSU by infinity in that one.
All right, there we go. We got to switch gears, head over to the end of the FL. Hit up on the next week's games. You got the Bears beat the Panthers Thursday night, 16-13.
I told you that was best case scenario for the Bears.
Yes.
If the Bears got that win, it would really help solidify that number 1 pick that they're going to get from the Panthers. Not only the Panthers' number 1 pick, but probably the number 1 pick in the draft.
You got the Cowboys beating the Giants 49-17.
Well, the scoreboard tells you a story, and that is that the Cowboys absolutely dominated with the Giants, which is true.
Oh, yeah.
The fact is the Cowboys beat up on the Giants' second-string players.
Yes, they did.
They didn't have the starting quarterback, didn't have the starting running back.
And lost 3 more players during the course of that game.
Didn't have most of their starting offensive line going into that game. It was already just an anemic defense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really anything you can take away from that game other than the Cowboys' white-hot offense kept rolling.
That's right. You have the Colts beat the Patriots 10-6.
The big story about this game, Mac Jones, once again, I think for the 3rd time this year, got benched after throwing an
horrible
interception. Bailey Zappi comes in. He's trying to get the team into scoring position. Tries to run a fake spike from his own 35 or 40-yard line.
Yeah.
And throws the football into quadruple coverage where it gets picked off.
It's like, what are you doing?
And so one quarterback throws a horrible interception. His backup comes in and then throws a horrible interception.
It was pretty bad.
In a game that they were in a position to possibly win, but the Patriots dropped to 2-8, easily the worst team in the AFC.
That's right.
Not the AFC East, the entirety of the AFC.
The Texans beat the Bengals in a thriller, 30-27.
Absolutely
in a
bonkers game.
game that was so back and forth at the end of it. It was a wild ending to this football game. But what about the Texans? The rookie quarterback.
The rookie quarterback, the emergence of cast-off players from other teams.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary was in football purgatory in Buffalo because they don't run the football.
That's right.
He comes down to Houston, and he is routinely racking up 100-yard games. Then you got these cast-offs from other teams. Former Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz is down there in Houston now, which Dalton Schultz was a top 10 tight end in the NFL. Not top 5, top 10.
Top 10.
Like I'm not
really
gonna
good tight end.
He's a good tight end. He has really played well after about the first 4 weeks of the season.
That's right.
From that point on, has played really well. Noah Brown, who was buried on the Cowboys depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he was a 7th round pick for the Cowboys back in that same draft where they got Zeke and Dak.
That's right.
He has had some monster games in Houston.
Yep.
Thanks to C.J. Stroud and also not just a whole bunch of competition.
That's right.
Nico Collins is banged up, so that gives Noah Brown a little extra run. But they've also got the rookie Tank Dell who's showing out. It's a lot to be happy about if you're a Texans fan. They already had a pretty okay offensive line anyway with Laramie Tunsil and company. If they can get that defense squared away, like Houston might be pushing Jacksonville for that conference title, especially after the way the Jaguars and 49ers game played out yesterday.
That's right. Vikings beat the Saints 27-19. So Joshua Dobbs doing his thing.
Hey, going back to that Bengals game real quick. The Bengals losing there, falling to 5-4, puts them in a tough spot because they are now firmly entrenched in last place in the AFC North.
Yes.
And they're 5-4.
Yes.
It's not like they're bad. This is their first loss since like week 4 of the season. You know, they had really been playing well. But now they are in a very unenviable spot where they're going to have to win some big time games going down the stretch. But yeah, but the Saints Vikings, Josh Dobbs, 2 weeks in Minnesota, 2 dubs, 2 big time performances, especially. I mean, the Vikings were dominating the Saints at halftime.
Yes.
But the Saints played ballsy in the second half. When they scored touchdowns, they went for 2-point conversions. It was just too little too late for them at that point.
Steelers beat the Packers 23-19, and actually what came down to being like another thriller with opportunities to be had down here.
There were 5 games decided by a last-second field goal this week, by the way.
Buccaneers beat the Titans 20-6. That was just
the Titans are terrible.
Awful performance by Tennessee.
Man, and the Buccaneers are up and down. Remember, I think they started the year 3-1. And then it's just kind of been a downhill slide for them. They lost 4 in a row.
Yep.
But they bounced back, and they needed a pick-me-up game, and the Titans were definitely the team to give them that. Big game for Mike Evans, big game for Baker Mayfield.
49ers beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 34-3.
All right, so this is what I'm talking about. So the 49ers win. 49ers, it's their first win in a month.
Yeah.
So they are now 6-3. The Jaguars fall to 6-3. Now the Texans are 5-4 and breathing down the Jaguars' necks. Yep. Brock Purdy, fantastic game for him. 296 yards, 3 touchdowns. George Kittle, 3 catches, 116 yards, touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, 16 carries, 95 yards, no touchdowns. He falls just short of setting the all-time record for most consecutive games with some variety of touchdowns scored. Right. And it wasn't for a lack of trying by the 49ers.
No, they tried to get him in
They tried to get him in the end zone, and it just wasn't happening.
It wasn't working for him.
He was actually very tongue-in-cheek about the situation after the game. They asked him if he was disappointed with his performance, and he was like, no, obviously I suck. I mean, everybody on the team scored a touchdown today except me. But he was very jovial about it. But, yeah, if the 49ers can play like that against good quality opponents like the Jacksonville Jaguars, the 49ers can be what we thought they were, which is one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, the Browns beating the Ravens 33-31 as time expires in this game. Again, wild finish.
The number 1 and number 2 defenses in the NFL playing each other. They also happen to be division rivals in a game where 64 total points were scored, but defenses were scoring too. The Ravens scored a defensive touchdown. The Browns scored a defensive touchdown. The big story here is Lamar Jackson's 2 interceptions. He cannot do that if the Ravens want to end up being division champions once again, because the competition in that division is fierce. The Ravens still technically are the division leaders by half a game. They're 7-3, but the Browns are 6-3. The Steelers are 6-3. The Bengals are 5-4. Like that is the most brutal division, not only in the AFC but in the entire NFL.
Yeah, no doubt. Cardinals beat the Falcons 25-23.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, man, back on the field, making plays, scrambling around, picking up huge third down runs. 249 passing yards. He did have a pick in this game, but he did enough to get the Cardinals the win, which also made the Bears very happy because now the Cardinals have the number 2 or 3 pick, depending on how that plays out with them and the Patriots. But it gives the Bears the number 1 pick that they got from the Panthers.
In another thriller, the Lions go on the road to beat the Chargers 41-38.
Well, the
Again,
Lions,
another field goal.
The Lions played themselves early in this game. It's kind of like what happened in the Dallas game in the sense that the Lions got down into the red zone, like goal line area. They went for it on 4th down, didn't get it. And those were very costly points. Even if they had just had 3 points, they wouldn't have even been in a position where they had to go try to march down the field and kick another field goal to win the game. They could have just ran the clock out.
That's right.
But big game for Jared Goff, 23 of 33 passing for 333 yards, 2 touchdowns.
The Seahawks beat the Commanders 29-26.
Another thriller came down to the wire. Seahawks kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. And that was after the Commanders literally tied the game up with just a minute left in the game. So that one was bonkers. The afternoon window in particular of games. There were 4 afternoon games. Only one of them wasn't competitive, and that was the Cowboys and Giants.
Jets, Raiders. Raiders win this game 16-12.
Yeah, this game was the Ineptitude Bowl. Zach Wilson, the Raiders fumbled 3 times in this game. They only turned over one of those fumbles. Zach Wilson threw a late interception, and then the Raiders couldn't do anything with the ball, had to give it back to the Jets. So the Jets started driving, and then they ultimately had to throw a Hail Mary, which Zach Wilson, to his credit, was making dudes miss all night. He was running for his life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Made some people miss, threw a bomb down, which honestly it looked like Garrett Wilson would have caught the Hail Mary to win the game, but his own teammate, Tyler Conklin, the tight end, jumps up and for whatever reason goes up with one arm and basically gets the pass defense on his own teammate. So, what are you doing?
I don't think they know right now.
But Antonio Pierce, interim head coach of the Raiders, improves to 2-0.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he's played 2 of the worst teams in the league.
That's right.
Both New York teams, the Jets and the Giants. Great game for Josh Jacobs, 27 carries, 116 yards. He had a couple more yards through the air as well. The Raiders aren't world beaters. I mean, they only scored 16 points, which the Jets defense is good. Don't get me wrong. But the Raiders defense is not good, and they lost 2 more outside corners last night, which is about to make things really difficult for the 5-5 Raiders.
That's right. Tonight we got Broncos, Bills, the Lions, Buffalo by 7.5.
I don't know, man. Like, Buffalo's not playing as well as they should.
No.
They are not playing as with the talent that they have. The Broncos, on the other hand,
They have changed around their season a bit.
The Broncos have looked terrible, and then they've also beaten the Chiefs.
That's right.
So I don't really know where to go. I'm going to go with the Bills just because of the abundance of talent in Buffalo.
All right, Thursday, Bengals, Ravens. Lions, Baltimore by 3.5.
And it should be. Baltimore is the better team right now, but Joe Chill has a way of showing up in these big-time games and just making people look foolish.
Sunday, we got Cowboys, Panthers, the Lions, Dallas by 11 on the road.
That's fair.
Steelers, Browns, Lions, Cleveland by 3.5 at home.
Look at this. 2 huge AFC North battles this week.
They are.
Man, both
Big
games 3.5 point spreads. The home team favored in both of those. Man. I am going to take the 2 favorites, though. I'm taking the Ravens on Thursday. I'm taking the Browns on Sunday.
Bears, Lions. The line is Detroit by 10 at home.
I'll take Detroit by 15.
Chargers, Packers. The line is LA by 3 on the road.
Yeah. Chargers have, under Brandon Staley, have just never figured out how to win close games. But they have a favorable matchup here against the Packers. They should go into Lambeau and get the win.
Raiders, Dolphins, Lions, Miami by 11.5.
Yeah, we were just talking about Antonio Pierce's Raiders have not played anybody. Well, they're playing somebody this week. The Dolphins should absolutely roll against the Raiders.
Giants, Commanders, line is Washington by 10 at home.
Yeah, it should be the Commanders. Commanders are not as bad as their record would indicate.
No, they're really not.
However, the Giants are worse than their record indicates. Commanders should absolutely win.
Titans, Jaguars, lines Jacksonville by 6.5 at home.
Yeah, Jaguars bouncing back this week. Easily the worst game of Trevor Lawrence's career against the 49ers. That will not happen against the Titans. The Titans are just too terrible.
Cardinals, Texans, the line is Houston by 4 at home.
I want to take the Texans, but, man, now that Kyler Murray's back for the Cardinals, who knows what could happen. But I am rolling with Houston.
Buccaneers, 49ers, line is San Fran by 10.5.
If Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle and company, if they continue and build off of what they did last week, they'll be fine. 49ers win.
Jets, Bills, lines Buffalo by 6.5 at home.
Yeah, got to go with that.
Seahawks, Rams, line is Seattle by 1.5 on the road.
Now, coming off the bye this week, will the Rams have Matt Stafford? If the Rams have Matt Stafford, then this is a little different outlook.
That's right.
I'm not sure. I haven't looked up to see what his availability will be. But until that's known, I'm going to take the Seahawks.
All right, we got the Vikings, the Broncos, lines Denver by 1.5 at home.
Look, I'm not going against the Pastronaut. Give me Josh Dobbs.
All right. And finally, next Monday, and we'll talk about this game, Eagles, Chiefs, huge matchup. We will get into that next Monday for sure because that is a very critical game for both teams, really.
Chiefs currently 3-point favorites in that one.
Yep, yes, they are.
And it's at Arrowhead.
Over under that game is what, 45?
46.5.
There you go.
Big. Teams with bye weeks this week: Atlanta, Indianapolis, New England, and New Orleans.
That's right.
All 3 of those 4 teams coming off of losses. The Colts did win last week. They did not look particularly good.
All right, folks, it is that time of the show. We got to hand out some awards.
Yeah, buddy.
So we got to start out with our very first. Dude, I got to cut that down.
Yeah, well.
Error.
Hey, we tried something new.
We did try something new. I got to go fix it now. Damn it.
That's fine.
Oh, well. Makes sense, though, that it's that one. It works.
Yeah, so my drizzler this week is Mac Jones. Benched for the 3rd time this season. He wasn't bad from a completion percentage standpoint. He was 15-20, so he completed 75% of his passes. But, man, it was only 170 yards. He had the ugly interception. So at home, his home splits this year, he has 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Against the AFC, he has 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He has not done pretty well. He is 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions on the year. That's the rate Mac Jones is going. It's just consistently bad for him. He was also sacked 5 times in this game. Mm-hmm. So, Mac Jones, you are my drizzler this week.
And I have to concur. 2 years ago, we were talking about Mac Jones might be getting this whole NFL thing and might be better than we thought he was going to be. And 2 years removed from that, we found out that no, in fact, he's not better than what we thought he was going to be.
Well, also
It's bad.
When that draft happened, I said that Justin Fields was going to have a substantially better career than Zach Wilson, and it looks like they're both just having terrible careers.
Yeah. Again, it comes and goes. That's always a hard thing
But maybe
to predict.
Justin Fields gets out of Chicago
And is better.
and turns it around somewhere else.
Well, Mac Jones ain't.
Yeah, he's not. That's not happening.
You just don't. You can't watch that dude play football and go, what? Well, it was because of it. Look at the way he throws interceptions and the decisions he makes in there. It's like he's not even thinking on the football field. And in that position, your mind has to be constantly going. You have to be alert and instinctual, and he has none of those things.
Well, the part that's really weird for me is when he was in college, he shared a quarterback room with Tua Tagovailoa and with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Like, how did you not pick something up from those two guys?
But again, it's all a mental thing, right? It's like in college, it's so different. And that's why a lot of guys don't translate well in that position over that you think, oh, this guy's going to be a stud. And it's like, oh, no, you're not a stud.
Yeah.
All right. You could be because we were talking about college football earlier, and you look, well, this team's not going to play anybody. They haven't really played this. They've only played one top 10 team and all this stuff. A lot of times you'd be on a monster team or a really good team, and that's your whole career. And all these other guys are picking up your slack. So you're bullying people, and you can get by and you can put up these gaudy numbers, but that has no bearing on your talent level.
Not at all. No.
All right. And then when you get to the NFL, they get exposed as to, oh, crap, I really can't play this position because everybody's good here.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference.
Everybody's good. Everyone's fast. Everyone's strong.
Yeah.
Everyone's smart. Everyone studies. Everyone watches film.
And if you're not up there at the top of you can't play in that league. Not at that position.
No, we have seen so many guys wash out that were tremendously talented.
Yes.
Old boy from LSU, Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah.
The Raiders.
Phenomenal in college.
Terrell Pryor from Ohio State.
Phenomenal in college.
Johnny Manziel, Texas A&M.
Again, another one. Matt Leinart. Great in college.
Yeah. Well, he was also on the greatest team ever.
But that's what I'm saying. But again, that goes to my point, right?
Right.
But he put up some great numbers and played.
Also
well.
had a human cheat code in the backfield with him.
That's right. Which
Reggie Bush.
Again, these guys can make you better than you are.
Yeah.
When you're playing on an level playing field and everybody's good, all the true colors come out.
A guy that I love very much, Vince Young.
Oh, I love BY.
Terrible NFL quarterback.
Terrible NFL quarterback because it just does not translate. And you see that a lot with it. So, yeah, I'm with you 100% on that deal. So we did that one. So it's time for a big kahuna.
This is a tasty burger. You ever had a big kahuna burger? Want a bite? They're real tasty.
They are real tasty. And so we're giving out them big kahunas for the week. I know what mine's going to be.
Well, you go ahead because I am trying to decide between three people.
When you put up 8 touchdowns in a game, as Gabriel did, you kind of earned the big kahuna. I mean, he lit it up through the air, did it on the ground. He did everything. I mean, there were some great displays of athleticism. I loved what CeeDee Lamb did this weekend. The first wide receiver in history with 10 receptions, 150-plus receiving yards in 3 games. But come on, dude. You put up 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, Dylan
That's a
Gabriel
lot.
was 23 of 36, 423 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air, and then 11 carries for 50 yards, averaging 4.5 per carry, 3 touchdowns on the ground.
That is a beast move right there. It just really is. So he's my big kahuna.
Well, I'm glad that you said that one because that allowed me to eliminate him from my consideration. So I'm between 2 others, man. I'm between Jaden Daniels from LSU, who had 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. So 5 touchdowns. He had 234 rushing yards. He had 372 passing yards. But they played Florida, who's not necessarily great. On the flip side, the other guy, who I think is my big kahuna this week, UCF Knight running back, R.J. Harvey. So R.J. Harvey
might be the most impressive of the weekend.
He played number 15 Oklahoma State.
That's right.
So the level of competition
wasn't a cakewalk.
Was better than Oklahoma.
Yep.
It was better than LSU.
Absolutely.
He had 24 carries, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns rushing. Actually didn't have any receptions in that game. So literally it was all on the ground, but he broke off run after run after run. He averaged 8.6 yards per carry. He had a long run of 92 in that game. But even last week against Cincinnati, he had 20 carries, 164 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground there, averaging 8.2. So this guy has been good all season. You go back to the Kansas game where UCF dominated Kansas 51-22, 16 carries, 133 yards, a touchdown, averaged 8.3 on the ground there. RJ Harvey could play on any team in the country.
Yep.
Be the starter.
That's right.
He can start for anybody. So RJ Harvey, big shout out. You're this week's Big Kahuna, brother.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I like it. That's a good one. All right, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in to this week's edition of the Undefined Blitz. Be back next week when we see if something dramatic happened over the weekend and we get to talk about it.
We'll be getting ready to go into the last week of the regular season,
which is going to be huge.
Football.
It will be huge.
It'll be Thanksgiving week.
That's right.
So there's
rivalry week is coming up.
A lot of rivalry games. Of course, we'll have NFL Thanksgiving football.
That's right.
Which is always fun.
It's going to be wild.
We'll get I think the Lions have a pretty good game on Thanksgiving this week.
Yeah.
Or on Thanksgiving this year. The Cowboys have a rivalry game.
Yes, they do.
On Thanksgiving.
Commanders, I believe.
Which is always fun. In my brain, that should always be the Thanksgiving game.
I think so, too.
Cowboys and Washington. Now, it was a little more impactful back when they were still the Redskins because you had the Cowboys and Indians theme. Now, granted, Washington would never be down for that because the game would always be played in Dallas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So they wouldn't do that, but I would love that. But, last year the Cowboys had the Giants on Thanksgiving. This year they've got the Commanders. I love that. And I'm not sure what the late game is on Thanksgiving.
I don't know. I hadn't even looked, to be honest with you. But we'll talk about that. Believe me. And a lot more coming up Monday. Until then, you guys have a safe, happy week. See y'all soon.